Okay, let's start again. Good evening, all. Welcome to the Williston Development Review Board meeting. Today is June 24th, 2025. My name is Pete Kelly. I'm chair of the DRB. Please silence your phones and devices. Zoom attendees, please stay muted unless it's your turn to speak. For Zoom technical questions, please contact planning staff through Zoom chat. First order of business is to take a roll call of DRB members in attendance this evening. Indicate yay if you are present. Nate?
Yay.
Paul Christensen is not present. Lisa Braden Harder?
Yay.
Scott Riley?
Here.
Dave Turner?
Yay.
Brian Curtis?
Yay.
And the chair is present. 6 in attendance. We do have a quorum. The following items are on tonight's agenda. We've got HP 25-06, which is a certificate of appropriateness for the Immaculate Heart of Mary Church. DP 24-12.1, Duane, Merrill and Company and Brickliners Custom Masonry and Chimney Services for a new building on James Brown Drive. And then DP 24-05, Armand Fournier is requested discretionary permit for a proposed 4-lot subdivision. The Development Review Board follows rules of procedure and conducts quasi-judicial proceedings, aka public hearings like court, pursuant to Williston Unified Development Bylaw, WDB, Chapter 6 and Appendix A. The powers of the DRB are established in and limited by this bylaw, as well as state statute, and expounded upon in the staff reports for each public hearing application. As volunteer public officials, we are held to the standards of the Williston Volunteer Policy and the Williston Conflict of Interest Ordinance. For any public hearing tonight, DRB members, does any member wish to be excused on account of a conflict of interest? Hearing none. Does any member wish to report any ex parte contact? Okay. Next up is agenda item number 1. This is a public forum. This is an opportunity for members of the audience or people participating by Zoom to address the board on matters not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone present that would like to address the board? Okay, hearing none. Let's segue right into agenda item number 2. It's the public hearing. First up is the certificate of appropriateness for the church, HP 25-06. Who is representing that application?
I am Bill Wrench.
Bill, good evening. Come on up to the table, please. Been a while since our basketball overlap of our children. Bill, if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
All right, my name is William Wrench. My address is 70 Governor Chittenden Road, Williston, Vermont.
Great. Emily.
You need to press the
Up. Go ahead and repeat that, please.
My name is William Wrench. I live at 70 Governor Chittenden Road, Williston, Vermont.
Great. Emily, you're up.
Thanks, Pete. This is a request for a certificate of appropriateness for the property called Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish Church, located at 7415 to 7417 Williston Road in the Village Zoning District. This property contains a couple of structures. The main structure is the rectory. That is a historic contributing structure. And the change tonight is being proposed to the church itself, which is a non-contributing, non-historic structure. So the change that's proposed is the roof flashing and drip lines from copper material to aluminum material. Because this change is being made to a property that contains a contributing structure, it requires the certificate of appropriateness. The Historic and Design Advisory Committee reviewed this application last week and found that it complied as proposed. Chapter 41 is very flexible on the material standards, particularly when the change is being made to a non-contributing, non-historic structure like this one. So the recommendation is that this change complies as proposed. Thank you.
Okay, Emily, Bill, anything to add to that?
Yeah, just the drip edge will be white aluminum to match the soffit, which is also white. And then the metal valleys, we'll talk to the contractor and we'll go with a aged bronze or mansard brown to resemble or take on the appearance of aged copper. So we're trying to keep the look the same, best we can.
Okay. DRB members, any questions?
I don't think the colors of the valleys were specified in the application. Did you?
They were not, no, because I wasn't aware that we had a choice until after the application was submitted.
So if that were added, would that be okay with you?
If I add it to the application?
Well, to the approval.
If the approval noted that
Oh,
change.
Sure, that would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be added as finding of fact number 5.
Okay,
Mhm.
thanks.
Yep.
All right, so the staff report would be amended to reflect that? Is that what you're saying?
The first page, and we can write it on the paper copy when you sign it at the end of the meeting.
Got it,
Yeah.
got it. Okay, understood. Okay, good catch, Nate. Any other questions from the DRB members? Members of the audience, any comments? Bill, any last words?
No, thank you for considering our application.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. It's 7:08. We're going to close that hearing of HP 25-06. Thank you.
All right, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thanks,
too.
Bill.
Okay, next up is DP 24-12.1, Duane, Merrill and Company and Brickliners Custom Masonry. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Jacob Loeffler, 130 Summerfield Avenue, South Burlington, Vermont.
Thank you.
Brian Courier, Larry Burke Civil Associates, 13 Corporate Drive, Essex.
Thank you, Brian. Emily, you're next.
Thank you, Pete. This is a request for a discretionary permit for a 9,990 square foot building footprint, approximately 90 by 110 feet, and a 10-space parking lot and outdoor storage area at Lot 3 of the Duane Merrill 3-lot subdivision. A second-story mezzanine level has been added into the building, increasing the finished floor area to approximately 12,600 square feet. The warehouse was initially proposed and completed pre-application review on Lot 2, where the building was slightly smaller and had a larger parking lot because the parking lot accounted for what is now outdoor storage area. Lot 3 is currently vacant. It's approximately 0.9 acres. It's located in the Gateway Zoning District North, where it is subject to design review, but not Conservation Commission review. The staff recommendation tonight is to take testimony and close the hearing, deliberate, and approve the application. Since mailing out the staff report, we did receive comments from the Department of Public Works, and Christine is in the room this evening. Those comment memos have been circulated to the DRB this evening. Revised plans were submitted by the applicant on June 16th. They were reviewed by Planning and DPW. The main item for the DRB's discussion tonight is the existing hedge. See sections chapter 33 and 23 regarding this hedge. In the minutes of February 11th, it stated, the DRB staff and applicant discussed the existing hedge. Emily suggested that the type 3 plantings continue to the property line. Brian stated that they would prefer continuing the plantings to the property line for uniformity and removing the existing hedge. The DRB decided to keep the existing hedge. This leads into property history. This is the second time the DRB is reviewing the request. The hearing was opened on, actually I think it's the third time. The hearing was opened and discussed on February 11th. It was discussed again on April 28th. It was scheduled for the 13th, but there was no discussion and the item was continued to this evening. The Historic and Design Advisory Committee reviewed the application, and they found that it complied as proposed. Public Works commented both in January and their updated memo, and we can include that memo date in the conditions of approval. The Fire Department comments have been provided but are excluded from the conditions of approval. The Fire Department Plan Review Standard Policy is a Select Board policy, not a duly adopted ordinance, and therefore has no enforcement capabilities via this development bylaw. The Fire Department comment regarding hazardous materials is handled by Chapter 18 as discussed below. One comment letter was received at the time of mail-out, at that time, February 6th, and to date, no other comment letters or emails have been received from the public. Pre-application recommendations. There were several recommendations made by the board when the pre-application review took place in January 2024. Those comments have been adequately addressed by the applicant in the discretionary permit application, or can be addressed at final plan, such as the specification for the bike rack and a floor plan showing end-of-trip facilities as well. For the Gateway Zoning District North, there are specific findings, conditions, and conclusions written for this zoning district. The proposed use is allowed. Brickliners custom masonry and chimney service is a construction use that is allowed in this district. Building height complies as proposed. It's less than the 36-foot height maximum, and it complies with setbacks to James Brown Drive. The image on the screen is the outdoor storage area. So they extended the landscaping as they were proposed. They're putting a fence as they're required to around the outdoor storage area. However, it does need to be adjusted in that far southeast corner of the lot to remove the hedge from the outdoor storage area. And the fence would be
So
relocated on the north and west sides to protect that hedge. The outdoor storage.
So let's rewind on that.
Yep.
Okay, so that's really the meat of this application tonight. So, so walk us through, graphically what you just said, if you would, please.
Yep, I'm gonna scroll down to another image that will
And if
help.
you're gonna come to it, then that's okay. I'll be patient.
I think it's worth talking about it now. So the image, which is on page 9 of the staff report, is the original site plan from February 11th and then April 28th. Originally, they did not continue the new landscape buffer all the way to the property line. So the image on the right is the old site plan. They then updated it to extend the landscape buffer all the way along the property line and add the fence. But the existing hedge, which is that darker area in the corner, they're proposing to eliminate, and that would be part of an outdoor storage area. So the recommendation is to take this a step further. That dark corner, which is the hedge, would be maintained as a hedge, and that outdoor storage area shown in purple would adjust.
Would thus be less area.
Yes.
And so are you proposing, Emily, that that the landscaping is shown on the April 28th sheet 4 remain as drawn, and the hedge remain.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So outdoor sales and storage are allowed in this zoning district. There is a fence that will encompass this outdoor storage area, and it will be built as an extension of the building. 6 feet tall, wood, board-on-board privacy fence. Access complies as proposed. The plan was updated to include a sidewalk that connects the proposed James Brown Drive sidewalk to the main entrance. Off-street parking and loading, there's specific conditions. The vehicular parking complies, including ADA parking. However, at final plans, the specification for the bike rack must be shown, as well as the end-of-trip facility, which is a shower and changing area, and long-term bicycle storage on the interior floor plan. The number of parking spaces that are proposed comply with the bylaw. On-site infrastructure, compliance is anticipated here. There are some comments from the Public Works Department about the water and sewer lines and necessary easements. Those comments must be addressed adequately at final plans. Maintenance standard conditions are proposed. They've shown snow storage areas, and they've shown solid waste containers. The location of those solid waste containers has been moved farther from the homes on Shirley Circle. Chapter 18, compatibility, potential hazards, and nuisances. So the DRB must review and decide if more information is adequate. At that February 11th continuance, at the end of that first hearing, the DRB still had a lot of outstanding questions on site operations and the standards of this chapter regarding noise, odor, vibration. Since that meeting, prior to April 28th, they provided an updated narrative letter that explained this information in great detail. Staff is not noting anything of concern here. Their hours of operation are normal. In terms of air quality, the building is just going to have typical HVAC. It's primarily a warehouse type facility. There isn't any heavy manufacturing that's taking place. Most of the noise takes place on site when they're going to properties throughout the area to do an installation. And there's not any outdoor work areas besides, the storage of vehicles and the loading dock. Nor are there hazardous materials proposed. Design review, standard conditions. The Historic and Design Advisory Committee reviewed and found that it complied as proposed. The one outstanding item is showing front door airlocks at final plans. Since that initial February application, they submitted completely revised architectural elevations that essentially dress up the view from James Brown Drive with windows and additional materials, bringing it into compliance with the design review standards of Chapter 22. Circling back on landscaping, in terms of the landscape buffers on the west and south sides, it complies as proposed. It's that southeast corner where conditions are drafted so that final plans protect that existing hedge. And species variety will need to be updated at final plans to make sure that no more than 15% of any one genus is being proposed. Street trees complies as proposed. 4 trees will be planted along the James Brown Drive frontage. The conservation area standards are not applicable. Watershed health, there are no wetlands or watershed areas mapped on the property. The erosion control plan complies. It just needs to be updated to protect that existing hedge during construction. Signage complies as proposed. The signs either need to comply with table 25.A or they need a master sign plan, which now is an administrative activity as opposed to a different discretionary permit activity. Lastly, impact fees. These are assessed at administrative permit. A total of 6.4 PM peak hour trips are anticipated. The base fee is $1,943, and that gets adjusted slightly based on the pre- and post-construction value, which is calculated at the submission of administrative permit. Outdoor lighting complies as proposed. They updated their lighting plan in conformance with the illumination levels, light timing standards of this chapter. What follows are findings in fact, including specific findings of fact that the use will not generate vibration, odor, light, or glare, findings about noise levels, operation hours, and mechanical equipment. Those are very specific findings related to Chapter 18, so should the site, the tenant change operations, or it's a different use in the future, and it generates problems under Chapter 18, these specific findings of fact will be referred back to. Conditions of approval, we'll add that June 23rd memo for the Public Works comment. And then the other conditions in bold are in regards to landscaping and the bicycle parking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Okay, Brian and Jake, let's break this up into two different segments. First segment is anything other than the hedge. Second segment is the hedge. So let's start with the non-hedge items. Are there any, is there anything that you would like to add to Emily's staff report or proposed conditions of approval?
Nope, thought it was well done.
Okay. Okay. DRB members, any questions on non-hedge items?
I want to understand the sidewalk out front is going to be in front of lots 1 and 2? Or I'm sorry, 1 and 3, but not 2?
Yeah, so we're showing a draft layout in front of 2. We talked about last time we were here, I wanted to make sure the board was aware, there's a note that says the sidewalk shouldn't be constructed in front of lot 2 until a site plan is proposed on 2. Reason being is during site construction, those things tend to get destroyed. Sidewalk doesn't go anywhere now, so it's still gonna go nowhere either way.
So in the winter hearing, we had talked about that, and we all came to the conclusion that you could build it, and then you could bring it to the landfill, and then you could build it again,
Yeah.
basically, so.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
So instead of doing that cycle, we just said, don't build it.
Yep, and that was a decision in DP 2412, the subdivision approval that got its approval in February. And the board went back and forth on that condition, construct or easement, and it was decided that lot 2 would provide the easement and construction would take place if and when that lot develops.
Right. It's
This-
just a practical matter.
Yep, I agree. I just wanted to go over it.
Okay. Anything else? Lisa?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay. I'm good. So I'm gonna open it up to members of the audience, if anybody has any, would like to address the board on non-hedge issues. Now is the time. Okay, let's segue into the hedge along the back boundary of the lot. So in the winter hearing, the board recommended retaining that hedge, and the drawing that you submitted shows the hedge being removed.
Yep.
So the floor is yours to explain that.
Yep. So we understand that conversation happened. I wanted to show what a type 3 buffer and 2-foot berm would look like, as what we were talking about previously was all hypothetical. What if we did this? What if we did that? So you'll see the fence. So we have a type 3 buffer through there, a 2-foot berm, and now a 6-foot wooden fence. And then there's the historic hedge that only encroaches onto our side, 20, 30 feet maybe. The building is obviously the tallest structure that we're proposing, or the only structure. The only thing that hedge's height would be beneficial for, in my opinion, and it's on the opposite side as the hedge. So you'll see also in our site plan.
So state that again, please.
I imagine
the last sentence.
Yep, the board's desire to keep the hedge is obviously due to the historic height of it, right? It's been there for a while, so it's mature, it's tall. The building is the tallest thing on the site by a large margin, and it's on the opposite side as the hedge. Right, so the building's on the west side, the hedge is on the east side. It only encroaches on the lot about 30 feet. The hedge isn't gonna block the building. So, in my view, a 2-foot berm with 5, 6-foot cedars planted on top of it, all at the same time, is gonna look much nicer. It's gonna allow more of the outdoor storage area to be utilized. It'll look more uniform. I think it will look much better than an old scraggly hedge. It's not like it's been maintained, it's just grown without trimming or anything like that. To have it now split on a property line, I just don't think it's gonna look terribly good. Plus having the fence jog around it, creates more irregularity inside, harder to maintain. We just thought it was worth bringing to you folks now that it's drawn the other way, and have that conversation to see what you think.
Okay. Okay. Emily, comments?
Yeah, so to help with the conversation, I'm going to screen share the aerial imagery from Google. And to Brian's point, that hedge is in that southeast corner. The building is gonna be over here. So for the neighbors that live in this building on Shirley Circle, the closest residents, that sight line will primarily be as Brian described.
So the hedge is going to be, from that residence that you're drawing the sightline from. The sightline would be protecting a visual protection of vehicles that would be lower than the proposed fence. So it really wouldn't be screening anything.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
That's what I'm saying. There's a
Yeah.
2-foot berm with 5 to 6 foot trees, so that's gonna generally cover cars.
Right.
Every year it's only gonna get better.
Right.
So my thought was the biggest benefit is that it's, 15, 20 feet tall. But it's not even blocking the building, so I don't see the point to have that irregularity, have it take up space, have the fence jog around it.
Yeah.
I just don't see it to be necessary. It doesn't outweigh the benefits, in my opinion.
Okay, DRB members. I'd like people to weigh in on this and ask questions. Is everybody clear on the topic at hand? Okay.
I did take a peek at that hedge too, and it does look like it hasn't been maintained in a while. It is tall, but I don't think it adds anything to it if we remove it or leave it. My feeling is the same as Brian said, that if they put the fence up, a 2-foot berm and a 6-foot tree there, that's gonna block the stuff from the house. I would agree with him.
Yeah, I did a site visit as well, and it's a bit unruly. Yeah, agreed. Scott?
I'm good.
Lisa?
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Nate?
Yeah, I'm totally on board. Yeah, continuity is good.
Okay. Great. Okay. You good with that? Okay. Members of the audience, I'd like to give members of the audience an opportunity to weigh in on this topic about the hedgerow.
All
Oh,
No raised hands and no comments on Zoom.
okay. Okay, so, we covered proposed conditions of approval on non-hedge related, you had no issue. We covered the hedge, I think we've reached consensus and agree with your position on that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you feel is appropriate to discuss tonight?
There is a condition regarding the hedge, so as long as that's.
Right, that's gonna have to be amended.
Yeah.
Yeah, understood. We'll have to do some crafting of that. Okay, last chance for members of the audience to weigh in. Okay. I'm gonna close DP 24-12.1 at 7:31.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is DP 24-05. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
If you would state your names and addresses for the record, please.
Armand Fournier, 615 Butternut Road, Williston. And I'm George McCain with McCain Consulting, the engineer for the applicant.
And George, you get brownie points for your Montreal Expos hat.
Thank you.
Go Expo.
I saw now that we've got Canada Street, I thought it would fit nicely.
Spent a lot of time at Parc Géry in my youth. Emily, you're up.
Thanks, Pete. This is a request for a discretionary permit for a 4-lot subdivision at 615 Butternut Road in the Agricultural Rural Residential Zoning District, ARZD. The subject parcel is approximately 28 acres. All homes will be served by individual wells and a shared septic system. The driveway will be located and served by a single curb cut onto Butternut Road. There are 4 lots. Lot 1 will have the existing house and garage. Lot 2 and 3 will each be about 1 acre and will have new dwellings on each of them. And the 4th lot is about 21 acres and it is the open space lot. The driveway and curb cut has changed since the May 13th hearing to comply with the DPW specifications and bylaw chapter 13. This project was not subject to design review. It was subject to conservation review, and the Conservation Commission recommendations are included. Staff recommendation tonight is to take testimony and close the hearing, deliberate, and approve the application with findings, conditions, and conclusions as drafted. A revised comment from DPW was not provided at the time of mailout, but based on conversations, it sounds like the outstanding issues with the driveway have been resolved by relocation. Modifications to the driveway do not impact the habitat areas or the open space lot. Therefore, we did not refer this application back to the Conservation Commission. This is the second time the DRB is hearing the request. The hearing was opened on May 13th, and pre-application review for the project took place in October 2023. The Public Works comment memo is included. The Fire Department comment memo is excluded for reasons stated in the last hearing. And there is a note about the E911 coordinator that addressing be handled prior to final plans. If the driveway needs its own street name or if each home just has a street number off of Butternut Road, that be resolved prior to final plans. Public comment, no letters or emails were received at the time of mailout or up until this night's hearing. Pre-application recommendations, the applicant has responded to these in their discretionary permit application, and everything complies as proposed. Except for the shared driveway, where we need a few more notations and specifications at final plans, primarily for the driveway width and the reforestation mix. For the Agricultural Rural Residential Zoning District, This application complies with the dimensional standards for setbacks. Building height is confirmed at administrative permit when a new home is constructed. Density and open space development, the application complies as proposed. Housing design, the standards are either compliant or not applicable. And for lots and home sites as well, for those standards, either complies or is not applicable. Enforcements and guarantees. So at the last hearing, we were asked that the applicant provide information. There is a shared driveway and, more importantly, a shared septic system. These are private infrastructure facilities that need to be maintained by the owners. So the applicant has provided that draft deed language that guarantees the shared arrangement for maintenance. Chapter 11, Affordable Housing and Growth Management. The project proposes 3 dwellings total, and therefore was able to proceed from pre-application to discretionary permit review. Access, there is a specific condition, number 14. A few more details must be provided at final plans. The driveway width and clear zone, as well as construction specifications of the shared driveway. In terms of the bylaw standards for points of access, it complies with grade, site distance, which was the primary reason that this driveway was relocated. Where it currently is, there's some ledge that creates a site distance barrier. And the terrain, it has 2 curb cuts onto Butternut Road that form a triangle. The new driveway is a single curb cut that conforms to Public Works specifications. There are fire department comments that are not included in the condition of approval and cannot be enforced by this bylaw or the DRB, such as a dead-end turnaround for the apparatus, curve radius, 6-foot clear zones. Our bylaw requires 4-foot clear zones. The fire department comment that is met is the 14-foot width. The bylaw allows driveways anywhere from 12 to 16 feet in width. On-site infrastructure complies as proposed with on-site sewage disposal, on-site wells, and private underground utilities. Density complies as proposed. Landscaping complies as proposed. This is an open space development, and ample buffers are provided along all of the exterior property lines, as well as the existing home site on Lot 1 is set back where there's an existing forested buffer between that home and Butternut Road. Conservation areas, there's specific recommendations of the Conservation Commission, and there was some review and discussion at the last hearing that has been addressed in regards to the habitat disturbance assessment and the planting schedule. That existing driveway area will be removed and then replanted with a conservation mix to encourage healthy reforestation. Watershed health, there is an erosion and runoff control plan that complies. As requested, they did provide a letter from the wetlands ecologist that there are no wetlands on the site. And lastly, impact fees. For recreation and parks fee and transportation fee, those are assessed at the time of administrative permit. There is not a school impact fee any longer. What follows are findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions of approval, including specific condition number 14. Final plan shall include a driveway cross-section and confirm length, width, clear zone, and other requirements of WDB 1326. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Emily. Gentlemen, anything to add to Emily's staff report?
No, that was a very thorough and succinct analysis there, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have, but it's a fairly straightforward 3-lot subdivision with a 4th lot that will be remained as open space per the bylaw, so.
Okay, great. DRB members, questions?
Just a comment, I appreciate that the open space is contiguous and not broken up at all.
Thank you.
Yep. Brian, questions?
None.
David?
No, I'm good.
Nate, anything further? No?
I'm good.
Lisa?
I'm good.
All set.
Okay. Members of the audience, Christine or Matt, do you have any comments? Okay. Any raised hands from Zoom?
No chats and no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay.
There's one public attendee.
Okay. Any last comments before we close? Okay. It is 7:40. We're gonna close DP 24-05. Thank you.
Thank you folks very much.
Okay, we're gonna go, the DRB is gonna go into deliberative session. Oh, take your time.
All good.
We get paid by the hour.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Christine.
Okay, thank you. We're back to the Town of Williston Development Review Board of Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. The DRB is out of deliberative session. It is 8:11. Is there a motion for HP 25-06?
Yes. In accordance with WDB Chapter 42, the Development Review Board, with the recommendation of the Historic and Design Advisory Committee, approves a certificate of appropriateness with the conditions outlined here. We were going to add an item 5, proposed colors are white drip line to match siding and brown/bronze color valley to emulate aged copper.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Dave. Any discussion? Yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Paul? Paul's not present. Lisa?
Yay.
Scott? Dave?
Yay.
Chair is a yay. Brian?
Yay.
Motion carries 6 in favor, none opposed. Is there a motion for DP 24-12.1?
Yes. As authorized by WDB 6.6.3, I, Nathan Andrews, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and all accompanying materials, including the recommendations of the town staff and the advisory boards required to comment on this application by the Williston Development Bylaw, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of February 11th, 2025, May 13th, 2025, and June 24th, 2025, accept the findings of fact and conclusions of law for DP 24-12.1 and approve this discretionary permit, subject to the conditions of approval above. We will be modifying 2 conditions. Condition 2A, we are adding the date of June 23rd, 2025 to reference the DPW memo most recently. And we are striking condition 8B. This approval authorizes the applicant to file final plans, obtain approval of these plans from staff, and then seek an administrative permit for the proposed development, which must proceed in strict conformance with the plans on which this approval is based.
Great, thank you, Nate. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Lisa seconds it. Any discussion? Hearing none. Yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott? Dave?
Yay.
Brian?
Yay.
The chair is a yay. 6 in favor, none opposed. Motion carries. Is there a motion for DP 24-05?
Yes, as authorized by WDB 6.6.3, I, Scott Riley, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and all accompanying materials, including the recommendations of the town staff and the advisory boards required to comment on this application by the Williston Development Bylaw, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of May 13th, 2025, and June 24th, 2025, accept the findings of fact and conclusions of law for DP 24-05, and approve this discretionary permit subject to the conditions of approval above. This approval authorizes the applicants to file final plans, obtain approval of these plans from staff, and then seek an administrative permit for the proposed development, which must proceed in strict conformance with the plans on which this approval is based.
Great, thank you, Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll say Dave Turner is the second. Any discussion? Okay, yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Dave?
Yay.
Brian?
Yay.
Chair is a yay. 6 in favor, none opposed. Motion carries. Is there a motion for the minutes of May 27, 2025?
Yes, I'll make a motion that the minutes for May 27th, 2025 be approved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Lisa seconds it. Any discussion? Hearing none. Yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Dave?
Yay.
Brian?
Yay.
Chair is a yay. 6 in favor, none opposed. The meeting minutes are approved. Is there anything else to bring forth tonight? Recognize Lisa's last meeting, right?
Yep, so we brought some chocolate pretzels, to recognize, Lisa's last meeting. Though absent tonight, this was also Paul Christensen's last meeting, the end of his term. We're welcoming Brian Curtis, who was appointed recently. We don't have any meetings in July, so Matt Frazier, who is in the audience, will be joining us at the August meetings. And at that time, we'll do, chair and vice chair appointments for the new fiscal year, as well as go over some training, housekeeping items. We are still advertising for a regular position and an alternate position for the board.
The person who was in the audience, is he appointed to the board?
Yes, he has already been appointed.
Yeah,
And his name was?
Matt Frazier.
and he, his term commences on July 1, but we don't have any meetings in July.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So be it.
What are we doing with pretzels?
That's, post meeting.
No.
Dave, did you
Needed
have
to
it?
make sure that was
So be it.
on the record.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, everyone.